What? Good morning, everyone. Had a day off filming yesterday because the previous day I'd done a lot and I just needed a day off. But yesterday I went on the bike and picked up the draw slides. They arrived and then I was fiddling around with that. It was an utter bastard to get it to work, but we got there in the end. It's not perfect, but it's perfectly serviceable. It's good enough. So I'll show you that now. It's turned out pretty good. I've got to give the surround another coat of paint because it takes so long to dry, but this is what we got. I love it. It's exactly what I dreamed up. And these draw slides lock, so that's not going to come out while I'm driving. But if I give it a bit of a tug, look at that. Needs one more coat of the hard wax oil stuff. That's had its 2 coats now. So that's looking really nice. Oh, I messed up with this as well. Although to be fair, it doesn't look as bad today, but I'm a bit annoyed. Well, that one there, I put this on it and instantly regretted it, so I am going to have to pop that one off. But then here, I started with a different wood oil. It's much lighter stuff, linseed oil based. I started to do it and I didn't know if I liked it or not. I think I preferred it like that, to be honest. I don't know. Should have just left it alone. I still got some more bits to put in. You see some of these gaps. I'm going to fill all the gaps in. But yeah, I don't know now. I don't know if that has ruined it. I might have to pop them out. Yeah, I mean, this is perfect. This is solid. So it's, after fiddling, I managed to get it to go in and out smoothly, or as smooth as I can get it anyway. Yeah, brilliant. Put a couple of 12-volt outlets down here. These are on pretty decent sized cable, so I can be on the laptop on one and charging from the other one. I think that'll work pretty well. And they're like right next to the workstation. Giving this its 2nd coat of wax oil. I'm loving that. That's turned out so bloody nice. So then, up front, the first thing I've done is move this screen because I kept catching myself on it when it was there. So I immediately realised that that just would not do. So now it's up there, which is fine. So what we've got up here then, well, we've got the phone mount fastened in just there. So that's not that interesting, but I've got to buy a new sat nav, but that's going to live in this gap just here. This is the little gadget that I bought. So it's a USB outlet thing, you know, cigarette lighter. I've got 3 on there, but this cable that comes off it sort of runs around here. Oh, of course she's here, of course she is. And then it's got another set on the other side of 2. So from one port you get 5, but they're spread out around the cab. I really like that. Saves having cables everywhere. But this is going to power, you got the old radio chick, so that's being charged off this guy here, and then we've got the mic up top there, and then I've got a spare one for whatever. Today is Fix the Van Day, finally. I think it's probably going to take me all day, although I've just whipped this off in 5 minutes, so that was quite good. Normally it's the taking off part that takes a long time. For those that aren't mechanically savvy, this is the tool, or the set of tools I've been waiting for, is this bit. And there's one on the other side. It just compresses the spring so you can actually undo it and put it together. Otherwise, if you just undo this nut, this thing is basically like a gun. It just let all that pressure out. Turns out it's quite a bit inside that I need. So there's like a bump stop in there, the guard, and then this end bearing type thing. I've got new rubber mount, this bottom bit, new one of that, but I don't have new one of this. So let's hope that's okay. On the other side, this feels okay. We now have one. Just this is without a doubt the worst and most dangerous job I've ever done on a vehicle, ever. Yeah, definitely. 10 out of 10, would not recommend. Honestly, if there was a garage close, I'd take the new stuff and just get them to do it. I'd sooner pay, you know, half an hour's labour or whatever it'd be, even an hour, rather than risking beheading myself. But we got there in the end. But it really was not a fun experience, what I did to try and mitigate the danger. Is I had that like that. Obviously I was doing these compressor things, plus ratchet straps, plus these for the top coil. These are a nightmare because the springs are so like wide with not many coils. I can only get onto here, and then this was stopping me getting the nut out, or the new nut on, so I had to compress this on its own, and not looking forward to the other side, but we've managed to do one, so that's good. There's a definite satisfaction in doing your own mechanical stuff, you know, but there's also a point, there's a line where you got to ask yourself, like, is it actually worth your time, you know? Because what's taken me 2 to 3 hours would have taken a garage probably not even 30 minutes, probably 15 minutes to just, if I went down there with the 2 old shocks and the new stuff so that they could get the rubber bit out. If they had a proper like wall mounted, you know, hydraulic compressor thing, it'd take them 5 minutes and probably cost me next to nothing. You've got to balance up, like, what is it worth spending your time on? Because time, ultimately, is the most precious thing we have, not money. But at least I've done it. However, I still have to do it all again on the other side. I guess you have to try these jobs to know that you don't want to do them. I didn't think it'd take this long. But this side is where things get interesting. Because, well, this is the actual problem spring, because this one's snapped. So this is what's been making it ride like shite, I imagine. So there's that to deal with. We've got to change this caliper. And also, just a bit of icing on the cake, we've only got 4 lug nuts, because one of them is snapped in there. So that also needs addressing. I've got to try and get it out, basically. It's only about a centimetre thick behind this disc where the threads are. So there's not that much metal holding on to it. I'm just going to have to try and extract this if I can, which should be interesting. I don't really want to be driving on 4 lug nuts. Sure, it'd be fine, but you know, not a fan of doing that. But this is the worst part of the whole van. The rest of it is actually alright, apart from that back corner. But we've got the mud flaps on there now, so hopefully that won't get any worse. I was pleasantly surprised when I first looked under it. God, yeah, that caliper's binding quite a lot. So I could strip it, but been given a new one, so that's going on. This is now what I would consider safe, because the nut is on the end. Now I just thought it'd be funny to show you the lengths that I've had to go to get this to work. Because the spring compressors on their own wouldn't do it. They can't do it, basically. This spring hadn't snapped actually. It had jumped around on the mount, but it's not snapped. Anyway, so this is the bottom, this is the top, and as you can see, the top, it tapers in. Now if you had the correct tool where the whole thing just sits in the machine and it clamps it down from the top, this wouldn't be an issue. It literally takes seconds. But because these compressors have to run up the side of the spring, you can't put them on the top coil because it's in too much, so they won't sit properly against the rest of it, and you couldn't get, you know, a tool in there to actually do them up. So you have to put it on the next one down, which means the top one doesn't compress, which means you have to take these, well, to get that to be tight enough, you'd have to take these further than I'm willing to take them. They're tight, but they're not, there's still enough movement in them that I feel I'm not overdoing it, but I wouldn't want to go any further. So that's then a problem, because you can't get the nut in. You have to slide, this is a rod, this thing here. Hey, look at the play in that. That's screwed. Oh yeah. That's not doing much damping anymore, is it? That's a damper. It's supposed to be more like that. And what that does is, if you just had a spring and didn't have this, like this guy, when you hit a bump, the car would just keep bouncing all the way down the road. So this thing takes that out, and it sort of, you hit the bump and it lets the spring come back, but not keep bouncing. So this rod is what comes to the end, and then you put the nut on the end, and that locks it in then. You have to get it enough through this plate to actually get the nut on there. So, as you can see, had to get a bit creative, like slip ply, what are they called? Adjustable them. Got a big set of them, clamping down on the top spring, held in place by mole grips. Some more mole grips at the bottom here, seating that all the way down in the bottom, because that was an issue as well. And then when I pulled this contraption here, that then forced the rod up to the side of the spring, so I couldn't get it on. So I also had to then put a ratchet strap around the rod and pull it so I could get the end on. Yeah, a little bit ridiculous, I don't mind admitting, but it did work, so can't complain too much. Right, I've got to take this off in the same order that I put it on. Definitely not the correct way to do it, but you know, shit happens, doesn't it? I've only got what I've got. Oh, that's got some tension on it. Ooh. This one. And now we slowly undo these things. When I started getting under some real tension, now this isn't a tutorial, obviously. I've never done this before. Let's just clear that up. When I started getting towards the end, well, real tension, I was doing probably 6 half turns like this and alternating sides. So I'd do 6 and then 6 and then 6, just so it went down evenly. I also noticed, I don't know if you can notice on the camera, they look on the piss, but they're not. The tensioners, you can't put them perfectly straight with this spring because obviously the angle of the spring. So I did them at the same angle of the spring so that it matched, but that then allowed both clips to sit. Otherwise only one side was on, and that's definitely not safe. But we made it, which is good. Nobody died, no limbs were lost. I'm very fortunate actually, or grateful I should say, to the guy for buying these parts in advance. It's made my life a lot easier. You know, he could have just sold that van and not said anything because it had an MOT. He could have just sold it and let me deal with the problems, but no, he was completely honest, told me everything, and yeah, it's a lot of work to fix it, but at least I knew that going into it. Would you like to watch something very satisfying? Oh, come on, you little bastard. So this is the job that I anticipated was going to be the biggest ball ache out of all of them, and it's took me 2 minutes. Got that shiny new brake caliper. I just need to order a stud to go there. Shock is all in. Job's a good one. It's nice getting shiny new parts on your van, isn't it? Successful day. Welcome to the latest bright idea. That's what I've been working on this morning. Oh, obviously it's just a prototype at the minute, but I've been meaning to do this for a while. And I think it's actually going to work really well. So I picked up this rail from town the other day. It's only cheap. It's for, you mount it on your wall and then you get shelf brackets and they lock into it. It's like a storage system, but it was the exact length I needed, and it had an interesting shape that I thought would work well, and it is. So we got that with some, they're the shackles that were on the floor in here, and then these shackles again. These are actually shackles. What are these called? Eyelets, maybe. Tie down straps for loading, aren't there? But yeah, shackled to the tarp, which is quadruple thick, as you'll see. So the idea with this is, long-term viewers might remember my old Awning version 1, which was a tarp similar to this. These poles, and I just had clips on the side of the van and then some rope. And it worked, but there was problems with it. It wasn't perfect. Some of the things that used to piss me off about it was, number one, I have to take it completely off when I don't want to use it. Number two, the front of it used to sag a lot. And then number three, the tarp was too thin and eventually it ripped and that was it. So I'm trying to address all of those problems with this one. Some of you might think, what's the point in having an awning? But until you've had one, you won't really get it. They are very nice to have. It just extends the living space quite a lot. I've got a much better rail system now on here. I'm probably going to put more clips on, I think, because I don't think 3's enough. Probably put another 2. And then to address the sag at the front, I'm going to mount this tube. I've got to cut this end off because that's crap. But this is an alley tube. And this is going to be permanently glued into the top, which means we've then got a solid crossbar. And the idea is, this configuration how I've got it, I'm going to make some mounts to go onto the side of the van so those poles can pop in, and then if it's going to be windy or, you know, heavy rain or whatever, a couple of cords from here to 2 pegs, and I've got 2 good sized pegs, and that will be rock solid then. I think it'll work really well. This 4 layers here, I'm going to spray glue all of this together so it's one solid piece. But then the second benefit to having this pole is I can roll it up, you know, obviously take it down, roll it up around the pole so it's really tight, right up to there, and then strap it, and that's permanently fixed. You know, it's not going to flap off, it's not going to have loose bits, and I can just leave it there. So when I want it, I just roll it out. These poles here, I'm going to do 2 holes in this tube at the end, and they'll just pop into that, so that'll be a nice solid mounting. And then I got a cheapo awning that cost me about 20 quid. Ow. Smacked me in the head. So, trimmed it down, put 2 holes in, so now they sit in there a lot more solid. So, yeah, get some right tension on that. So I can adjust them to whatever height I need. Oh dear. Made up some clips, nice and simple. Just some little L brackets. Just like that. They're bending up a bit more actually. I don't think these will pass an MOT because it's like a bit sticking out. So I'm probably going to have to make a like a guard protector to go over it that I can pop off and then clip it on like that. There we go, just as kind of a proof of concept if you like. I've got me 2 pegs in, and this is now, I mean, that's as solid as an awning is ever going to be. I probably won't use it that often, but if I'm somewhere that I'm going to use it, then I've got no problem sticking 2 pegs in the floor, you know. Obviously you wouldn't want to be busting all this out in a Tesco car park, for example. Not that there's Tesco here, but you know what I mean. This is more of a find a nice spot in the middle of nowhere, or even the meetups and, you know, that sort of thing. Because I'm actually planning on coming back to the UK, I think, next year at some point. I want to try and get to 1 or 2 of these meetups that I'm missing out on, because they do look like fun. Right, so now I just need to stick it all together so it's not floppy like this, and then put 2 more clips up here. So in the end I decided, why do 2 more mounts when I can have like 20? So I've gone for more of a webbing style, which now it's never going anywhere. So you've got these 3 big shackles and then all of these. Obviously this gap here, I think what I'm going to do is just put a flap up on this top rail here. Obviously this gap's here because, you know, the space for the shackles and all of that, but rain will just come straight through that and into the door. So I think I'm going to put like a rubber flap on the top of the rail all the way along that just sits on top of that, and that'll work. I'm well happy with that though. That looks bloody brilliant. Looks like I've bought it, like a proper thing. That's it. Finito. So now we get to see how it rolls up. So I've not tried that yet, and this is where it could all get very embarrassing. This is why I thought buying this railing was a good idea, because it's already pre-slotted. I need to do stuff like this. That can go in there. There. So that will then, this is like a quick buckle, what's it? That will go around it once it's up. Alright, now we get to see if I'm smart or stupid. Should be able to. Oh. Not mega graceful, but. Alright, how do we want to roll it? I reckon this way. Oh! Now then, I know I do come up with a lot of these bright ideas. Some of them not quite as good as the others. But don't know about you, but I'd call that one of the better ones. That will do, and then I just have to figure something out for those tag ends. That is cool. Can I open the door? Yes, I can. These clips here don't need to be this long. I can half these, in which case I don't think they're going to be an issue really. That's bloody brilliant, that is. Definitely happy with that. Give them a quick paint so they don't look crap. Warning, 20 quid.
I knew it!
I actually can't believe it, we just found our bloody cat.
Baby cat!
Hello!
Oh, Salt!
It's found on the other side of the village. Just be careful because she might scratch.
Hey, what's the matter? Do you not remember?
Hello!
Hey. Oh my god. My baby. So cute, you idiot. Hey, come here.
She recognises us. She started meowing like mad, didn't she?
You're so silly. You're such a silly girl.
We're literally other side of the village. Marie rang me and said she saw her walking down this road. Thought it was her, so we just come up. And it is. Managed to find her. Hello.
Hey, you're so silly. You survived your first cross on your own.
4 bloody months. Hello. Absolutely buzzing. Yeah.
Wanna go in your house? It's changed a bit because you left for so long.
Meow meow. Oh, it's got a croaky voice. Teach you to go off looking for sex, wouldn't it? Got a right old lady voice now. Want to stick that? Yeah. She's wobbly.